All right, guys, it's time for the Next Level Guy Show, a men's interview, interest, and improvement-focused podcast featuring interviews with the greats from all industries to help you better your life. Each week, a new episode features an interview with one of the greats, covering all aspects of their story, from life hacks to tips and protocols that have allowed them to live life on the next level. We then highlight concrete action steps that you can use to improve your life. And now, your host, Ian Dawson McKay.
Today's guest is Rafael Lovato Jr. Rafael is a legend in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu scene. He's been a lifetime martial artist and the owner and head instructor of Lovato School of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Mixed Martial Arts in Oklahoma City. He's achieved nearly everything that is possible in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and is now showcasing his talents in the professional mixed martial arts scene with a record of 10 fights, 10 wins, with 8 of them coming by finishes. He's a 4th degree Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and holds a Muay Thai black belt as well. He's the leader of the Lovato Jiu-Jitsu Association, and his bio is simply amazing. He's been the MMA World Champion in Legacy and Bellator. He's won black belt Jiu-Jitsu titles all over the world, where he's been World Gi Champion as well as World No Gi Champion 3 times. He's a 13-time IBJJF World Medalist holder. He's a 3-time Pan Champion. Over in Brazil, he went on to become the Brazilian National Champion and the Brazilian National Absolute Champion, and he holds so many more championships and titles. He was the first person to ever win the IBJJF Grand Slam in 2007, the first non-Brazilian to ever win a major IBJJF Absolute title in 2013. He holds the honour of being the first American to win the Pans as a black belt, the first American to win the Europeans as a black belt, the first non-Brazilian to win the Brazilian Nationals. You get the idea. His accomplishments keep rolling and rolling. In this interview, we discuss his story, his inspiration and influences, the bond he has with his father, why he's been so successful, his views on competition, how you can develop yourself as a person as well as a fighter, and so much more. Now, he was a bucket list guest for me, and it's been an honour to feature him. I am very proud of this interview, and I hope it helps you on your martial arts journey and hitting that next level in your life. This is my 100th episode, and it's a milestone moment for me. It blows me away to keep attracting such amazing guests each week, but I'd like to say a massive thank you to you for listening. I don't care if this is your first episode or your 100th. I really appreciate you being part of my community and for joining me on the voyage towards self-development and bettering ourselves compared to who we were yesterday. I couldn't keep doing this without the support of my listeners as well as the feedback you sent me, so please keep it coming. This podcast has helped and changed my life in so many ways, and I hope you're getting what you need from it. Please leave reviews, please give me feedback. Everything helps me keep developing the show. I've got so many amazing plans and so many guests lined up for the next 100, and I can't wait to see what you think. And now, let's get to the interview. Cannot thank you enough for coming on, because I've been a major fan of yours since I discovered your pressure passing, submission hunting, these kind of instructionals you used to do. But for people who don't know your name, which is going to be very few, could you just give a quick introduction of who you are and how you're a legend in the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Sure. So my name is Rafael Lovato Jr. I am a 4th degree Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I've been a black belt now for, about to be 16 years. I received my black belt when I was 21, and at that time I was the youngest non-Brazilian to ever receive a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. My father is a lifetime martial artist, and so I grew up in the martial arts, studying under the Jeet Kune Do system as a child. And then my father discovered Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when I was around 11, 12 years old. And then that became my primary focus and love. And my father received his black belt 1 year before I did in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And we became the first American father and son Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. In the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'm one of a handful of non-Brazilian black belt world champions in the gi. I have 8 world medals in the gi, as well as being a 3-time black belt no-gi world champion. I was the first non-Brazilian to become a black belt gi and no-gi world champion. I was also the first person to ever Grand Slam, winning all 4 major IBJJF tournaments in the same year. And, there's more. I was a Brazilian national champion, the first non-Brazilian to win that, the first non-Brazilian to win a major absolute title. I've made a lot of history in the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for Americans and for non-Brazilians. And then 6 years ago, I started my MMA career. And last year, I became an undefeated Bellator MMA world champion as well.
And it's you're undefeated. Was it 10 fights?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, do you think you're always predestined to be a martial artist? Do you think what would you have liked to have become if the martial artist route had been denied, or your family wasn't involved in martial arts? Do you think you would always have found it eventually?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I have no idea. My whole life, martial arts has been there because of my father. So I can't even imagine a life without it. And, where I would have went. My father is also a musician at heart. In fact, he kind of goes back and forth with between martial arts and music as far as which is his number one passion. And so probably if martial arts wasn't there, I would have went down the music road in some shape or form, still following my father's footsteps, so to speak. He tried to get me into music when I was younger, but I was just a fighter at heart. I preferred, training martial arts well over practicing any instrument that they try to have me do. So, but I am a huge music lover, as I think we all are, especially hip hop. I'm a huge hip hop head. So some of my best friends are in the production world, and maybe I would have tried to go something down that route. But I believe I would have always searched for something athletically, just because I love to be active. And so with my height and the fact that I also loved basketball, maybe I would have tried to play basketball and do music or something like that.
What kind of instruments would have been the attraction to you? Because is it your saxophone your father plays?
No, he plays the organ.
Organ.
Yeah, he's a classical organist. And so, way outside the box, organ and martial arts. He's a one of a kind. But yeah, I grew up listening to a lot of classical music with my father. Bach is probably his favorite artist. But he's an organist, and they tried to have me first. I believe it was the drums, which I barely remember. I was really, really little. And then he got me into the violin, trying to keep me somewhat in that more classical music realm that he enjoyed. And I absolutely hated the violin. Like, I hated it. And that only lasted about a year. And then he finally just gave in and just let me train martial arts all the time. So
you've talked quite a bit about before in other interviews about, us finding our passions, discovering our whys in life and stuff like that. Where do you see guys going wrong, in your opinion? Is the fact that we no longer have these kind of rituals from like boys to men, is that where we've gone wrong? We've kind of removed how to find our passion. I mean, you discovered yours at an early life, but what advice would you give to somebody who's struggling to find their why and find out what they love and what they want to pursue in life?
Well, you're kind of asking a few different questions there.
I have that habit, unfortunately.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I think finding your passion is going to be number one before you really find your why. Finding what you love to do, that takes some exploring, that takes some self-searching, not being scared to go outside the box, outside the norm of society or what your your parents and the environment that you've came up in, what everyone around you is doing, what you may really, really love could be something completely outside of what everyone around you is doing and maybe loves to do. So, the exploring and soul searching could involve traveling, going on different little adventures to discover new things, try new things, and all that encompasses. But I believe everyone has something that is more or less their calling, that thing that they could do every day. And that's kind of where it would start, is like, if you didn't have to worry about money, what would you do every day of your life? What do you love to do? How can you be creative? What can you create? What gets your juices flowing? What inspires you? What wakes you up and makes you kind of lose track of time and everything else around you, to where you get lost in something. And once you find what that is, then that's your calling, and you should figure out a way to dedicate your life to that. Because in the end, doing anything else is not going to really make you happy. It's not really going to be fulfilling you, because you're just doing it to, pay the bills or have security, and more or less just kind of go through life, and so I think you have to discover that, figure out how, you can monetize that, seek out specialized knowledge from other professionals in that realm, find a mentor, and take the risk, get out of your comfort zone, invest in yourself, and just go all in on whatever that is, because it will always, always, always be worth it. 100%. There's no way it won't become worth it. And then inside of that, on that journey, once you discover what it is, and as you're making the decisions to go all in, then you discover your why. Exactly, whether it's, for family, maybe there's a little bit of an element of just proving to yourself that you can do it, and accepting that challenge. Maybe you're trying to set a new path, a new course for others to follow. Of course, deep down, I think we probably all want to make someone proud of us, if it's parents or some sort of other relative or guardian who was there for you and probably sacrificed a lot in some shape or form for you. And now you want to become successful and give back to them in some way. However it is, maybe you already have a family of your own, and you're trying to be an example for them and provide for them, whatever it is, inside of all those decisions and kind of coming to moments, you need to be constantly reflecting and figuring out what your why is at every step of the way.
And did you sort of feel any pressure to continue the sort of lineage of your family, into jiu-jitsu after your father's success, or were you always at that point of setting goals for yourself and wanting to see how far you could push it? Because you've hit a level of performance that few ever reach. What was the sort of initial driving force behind that? Is it just you wanting to be the best, or what was your motivation at the very start?
Well, at the very start, it all comes down to my father. Definitely, you can trace it back to him. Of course, me being a son, an only child, and following my father's footsteps. He was my first teacher, and just going to the academy with him ever since I was a little boy, and just seeing him train, seeing him teach. Of course, in the very beginning, I really just wanted to make my dad proud. That was the key motivation for me in following his footsteps and training martial arts. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, when he discovered Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and I started learning Jiu-Jitsu, I would say that at that point it became a little more personal for me, because I loved martial arts. but jiu-jitsu was different. I mean, I really, really, really fell in love with jiu-jitsu. I enjoyed training all martial arts, but jiu-jitsu was just something that came very natural to me. I did boxing and Thai boxing, and even studied, stick fighting and weapons. And, we cross-trained in so many different arts inside of the JKD system. And I liked them all. But jiu-jitsu, man, I really, really, really fell in love with that. And then I started making my own personal goals. When I first started traveling to Brazil, I was only 16. I had just turned 16 a month prior. So I was a baby, I was a teenager. And I go to Brazil, and this was without my father or my parents, that they invested in me. We didn't have very much money back then, and the school was struggling. There wasn't as much of a market for martial arts schools back then, especially real martial arts like what we were doing, for real self-defense and combat, not just karate and taekwondo. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but, we were very straight to the point, and there just wasn't much of a market for that back then. So, my dad, just in his eyes, he sees himself struggling to run this school. And he's investing in me for jiu-jitsu because he knows that I love it. But deep down, he really wanted me to go to school. I went to Brazil, and as I said, jiu-jitsu was my passion. And I said to myself, hey, I want to be a black belt world champion in this. And I want to make history as an American. That's something that as a teenager, I figured that out. But then I was feeling pressure from my father to go to school. And so I got out of high school and I started college. And he did not want me to take over the martial arts school. He wanted me to become a professional and not have to, have a job that was so dependent on others, and could go either direction, right? He wanted me to live that stable sort of, a professional lifestyle. I wouldn't be able to become a millionaire, but at the same time, I wouldn't become broke. But it was too late. I was so in love with jiu-jitsu. Like I said, I had already set my goal as becoming a black belt world champion. And then I'm in college as a brown belt. And I did about 2.5, 3 years of college. And when I was 20, I just set my parents down and said, hey, look, I can't do this anymore. I wasn't doing very well in school, and I was struggling in the competition scene. As a brown belt, the level is so high. You're basically already competing against black belts, more or less, And I had met Saulo Ribeiro, and I had an opportunity to train under him and go to Brazil and spend, months. I lived there for 4 months. And I told my parents, look, I just can't go to school anymore. I got to go all in. And it was a tough conversation. I was really worried about it. But at the same time, my dad, he got it. He didn't like it, but at the same time, he understood it because he had more or less done the same thing. He did not follow a normal path, and he knew what it was like to need to follow your gut and your heart and, do what was calling you. And so he understood it was okay. I dropped out of school. I went all in on jiu-jitsu, and he made me promise to go back to school, which I did. But I have yet to go back. Everything worked out. I achieved what I did and really made a name for us inside the jiu-jitsu world, and then beyond that in the martial arts world altogether. And years later, this was 2004 when I dropped out, and then in 2009, my father actually had a heart attack, and he almost died on our academy mats. His heart attack happened while he was in the academy. And fortunately, the school was right next to a hospital at that time, just like a mile away. And one of the students recognized his symptoms and got him to the hospital immediately, just in time, really. And my father survived, and he recovered completely and actually changed his health and became healthier than ever afterwards. But up until that time, I was 25 years old when it happened, and I was still just a 100% focused jiu-jitsu competitor. I was helping my dad teach classes, but by then I had won the worlds, and I was traveling and doing seminars, and I was more of a free spirit, so to speak. I would teach classes and do private lessons when I was at home, but I was just always traveling, and I didn't have to worry about running the school. But then my father, he was doing it all. He was answering phones, signing up students, teaching classes, just managing and doing everything for the school. He was a one-man show. And my mom and I, we fully believed that's why he had the heart attack, because he carried everything on his shoulders. He was very prideful, hardworking Latino man that's been on his own since he was a kid. And he basically almost worked himself to death. And so then I stepped up and I said, Dad, look, he was in the hospital for like a week, and then he spent the next 6 months at home recovering. It was a long recovery, and I had to step up and start running the school. And so in that time frame, I just discovered a new why. I had a new purpose. Up until then, all I thought about was winning titles. But then when I saw my dad almost die and not have anything to fall back on, no retirement, and no like real systems in place inside the school, if I had followed another path like he wanted me to, we could have lost the school in that time. We might have lost everything. And so when I stepped up, I realized, man, I have a new why, and that's to make this school as successful as possible and help my family, be there for my family. And, and I knew that I did not want that same thing to happen to me as I got older. We have to be smart. And financial success became much more of a goal. Up until then, I didn't really care. As long as I was doing jiu-jitsu, I didn't care. But then I realized, okay, we need to make systems for the school, and we deserve to be able to retire and not have to worry about what's going to happen when we get older and when our health can become a problem, and so then I just went all in on running the business. And the next year, I actually took over the academy, so my dad could semi-retire and just focus on his health. And so, yeah, I've been running the school now for 10 years, over 10 years. And this year, we actually just moved into a brand new facility, 10,000 square foot facility. It's beautiful. And that was really a dream come true, his life and my life together in the making to make that possible. And now we have over 300 students, and we're very, very proud of what we have here.
Yeah, it's an absolutely gorgeous academy, and I was delighted, to hear that your dad's back and he's healthy. But do you think, how did you overcome the fear of that? That initial kind of, is it because you knew you didn't have anything to fall back on that made you sort of really just go all in for it? And also, how did you deal with the transition from competitor to running the business? Was there anything that kind of stuck in your mind, any sort of tips that you found really helpful? And do you think that resilience has made you the man you are now, has made you the competitor you are, that you just go all in and you don't back down?
Well, yes. It's all part of who I am. As far as like what sprung me into action and really making it a point to be successful, it all came down to family. And just seeing my dad's life's work, and of course my life's work. I mean, I grew up in that school. You know, I don't have brothers and sisters, and so our family, our whole livelihood was tied to that school, and that's a huge reason why I've never moved. You know, there was different moments in my career where I thought it'd probably be to my best interest to move somewhere like California or wherever to be closer to high level training and competitions and things like that. You know, but I so much of my heart was in that school. I mean, I started helping my dad teach when I was 15 years old. So even though I didn't have anything to do with the business, you know, 10 years later when my dad had his heart attack, I had already been teaching inside of that place for 10 years. And I was very attached to the students. And, you know, we had people that were on their way to becoming black belts and all that, and people I had taught since they were white belts. And I didn't want to lose any of that. So my heart was in it. I loved being a teacher. I love teaching. And then of course, just family, not wanting my dad to lose all of his hard work, his blood, sweat, and tears, his sacrifice, everything. And mine as well, you know. And then, you know, as far as becoming, or how did I juggle being a businessman all of a sudden and competing? You know, I just learned that you have more time than what you think you have, and just how to be productive and how to schedule, you know, schedule out your day and make the routine. You know, after a workout or a training session, it wasn't rest time anymore, or fool around on the internet or whatever. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, now I was just going back and forth from training for myself to business to teaching. You know, it was always one of those three things. It basically encompasses my whole day now for, you know, the last 10, 11 years. It's like I'm either working on myself, I'm working on my business, or I'm working on my students. That's it. And, you know, every minute of every day, basically, until I'm winding down at night, I'm working on one of those three categories. And so it was just, you know, being more like taking the discipline from being a competitor and a martial artist and just applying it into more facets of my life, you know, with running the business. It's like, okay, be disciplined. Now is business time. And of course, just learning, seeking knowledge. You know, I started attending business seminars and marketing events and things like that to learn what I didn't know and just put it into practice. And of course, there's a lot of hardships along the way of figuring it all out and, you know, trying to grow. But you know, I was kind of built for it, and I needed that push, and then just had to apply myself as best as I possibly could.
So during that time, you know, this sort of like newfound love of always learning, always developing, that as well as your sort of trips to Brazil when you were younger, and then also now becoming the coach and getting the experience from that side, do you think that's helped you become like to the level of performance you are now, that you've understand jiu-jitsu at a deeper level, you've seen the different cultures? Did that experiences make you a better jiu-jitsu player, do you think?
Oh, for sure. I really have a beautiful history inside of jiu-jitsu that's so special. I'm just so grateful for it because I got to see, well, first, when I began learning jiu-jitsu, it wasn't for no sport or winning titles or anything like that was not a part of why I started learning jiu-jitsu. It had nothing to do with my original aspirations or love of Brazilian jiu-jitsu. When my father first started learning jiu-jitsu, it was just because of, like, we understood that ground fighting was important. You know, inside JKD, there's the development of your self-defense systems in each range of combat, from weapons to kicking range, punching range, into clinching, trapping, elbows, knees, takedowns, on into ground fighting. And so in JKD, even when I was a kid, there was very limited ground fighting inside of it. It was understood that, you needed to understand, we knew that ground fighting was something, that it existed. But what we did in that time was just so rough and so ugly. It was not technical, but it was for combat. It was for the reality of defending yourself in a real combat situation. And so when we first started learning jiu-jitsu, that's exactly what it was for. And then as my dad got exposed to it more and more, we found out that, hey, there is a sport in Brazil of jiu-jitsu. There's jiu-jitsu tournaments. Originally, the only jiu-jitsu we really saw was like the Gracie in action tapes, and like it was more like Vale Tudo style, which is like MMA. And then we saw, okay, and then there's jiu-jitsu by itself. There's a sport of jiu-jitsu. And then when I went to Brazil in '99, I was at the fourth ever World Championships. The very first World Championships was in '96. And so there I was just a few years later, and I got to see jiu-jitsu basically still in its roots in Brazil. And I was going every year to Brazil to learn and train and compete. And I saw it there. And then jiu-jitsu came to the U.S. And the first Worlds I did as a black belt was in Brazil. So I competed as a black belt at the Worlds in Brazil. Then it came to the U.S. and I won the very first Worlds on U.S. soil. And then, over the next 10 years, when jiu-jitsu first came to the U.S., or the Worlds specifically, when the Worlds first came to the U.S., the whole jiu-jitsu scene in America completely started changing. I mean, everyone started coming to America, setting up camps here, opening up schools. And then it became that, a few years later, you didn't even need to go to Brazil anymore. But in my day, when I was a kid, you had to go to Brazil to really see jiu-jitsu and learn it. But as all the Brazilians started migrating to the U.S., the whole landscape changed. And it's been an amazing, just seeing where it is now to where it was then, even when it first came to the U.S. And then going back to where it was in Brazil, it's incredible. But 100% seeing, the roots of jiu-jitsu for combat, and then the roots of jiu-jitsu sport, and my experience competing in gi, no gi, and MMA, and really doing every rules format that there basically is of jiu-jitsu, from no time limit to time limit with submission only, no points, this, that, and the other. And then, of course, fighting. I've experienced it all, and it's definitely all made me have a very well-rounded vision of jiu-jitsu, at least the jiu-jitsu that I believe in. And, of course, teaching as well is such a key in going full circle, and really understanding your own whys. When you teach it, you have to talk about that. Okay, you like that move, you're good at that move, it works for you, but why? Why does it work for you? Why do you put your hand there instead of here? What are your details? How do you do it different from everybody else? And you have to learn how to communicate that. And so, now I've been teaching for over 20 years, competing for almost 25 years in jiu-jitsu, and all that experience has just come together to make me who I am today. And I'm very, very grateful for the time that I got to come in and see it. And I was just at the perfect age to be able to basically be a competitor during this whole evolutionary process. And I'm still in there. I just fought last week in the gi, just a little over a week ago. I just made my comeback. So I'm just very grateful.
I mean, that's something that you've won title after title. You've beaten the world's best. You've evolved with the sport. You've been trying, mixed martial arts. You've gone through everybody that you faced there. What have you noticed then through the top tier athletes? Is there similarities in the top performers that you've noticed? Is there things that people don't understand about that level of performance? What does it take to compete at that level, from instead of being a hobbyist but to actually being a competitor? What makes guys like yourself, Gordon Ryan, Keenan, and these sort of people such high quality competitors?
A lot of times people look at the world's best in any given field, and they can automatically just say, "Oh, well, he's so gifted or talented, or there's natural ability," and they kind of wrap it all up into that. They just, well, he's incredibly gifted, and they think it only comes down to the talent, and that's why they're so successful. But everyone has a story. Every single great in any craft or whatever, they all have a story, and inside that story, there was risk, there was doubt, there was fear, there was moments where they had to go all in, they had to make tough decisions, and then of course there's an incredible amount of sacrifice and dedication, blood, sweat, and tears. Everyone has a story. Everyone had to basically devote every moment of their life into their passion to get to where they are. There's no other way. There's no other way. And yeah, everyone has that. Whether it's going into debt because they completely invested everything they had. They had to make a tough decision to move to another area of the world, away from their families, to learn and have a mentor and get access to training or whatever it may be to help them get better. Everyone experiences failures, obstacles that they have to overcome. Every single person has that. And of course, just an incredible work ethic. You have to be a perfectionist. You have to be obsessed. You can never be complacent or content with where you are. There always has to be that hunger inside of you to keep getting better, which can only exist if you are 100% completely in love with what you're doing, and you're doing it for the right reasons. Then all of these things just have a perfect sort of like alignment, and anything can happen. Anything is possible, but it's never easy. It's never a smooth road by any means. And I think that that's what a lot of people can see, or they just see the victories. They just see the celebrations or whatever. Maybe they weren't there for the dark times, the hard times, or the behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know. Like just even in my fight camps in MMA, every camp has its own story, right? And then there's the bigger story of getting to a world champion level, right? That's sort of the big story. And someone could look at my record and say, "Oh, he had it easy. He never lost 10 fights. He went all the way up to the top, and it was smooth sailing." But literally every fight camp had its own drama, had its own ups and downs, injuries, hard moments, questions and whys, and fears and doubts. And then you look at my title fight itself. That camp alone is like a lifetime worth of hardship in one camp. And no one knew what I was going through until I came out about it, months later. But that's just an example, and that's just one fight, one one little small piece in the whole big piece of what is my journey. But everyone has that. Every single person has that. And so, going back to what I was talking about earlier, about finding your passion and your why, and then committing to it and all that. Like, you just got to understand that, hey, adversity is part of it, and it's a good thing, because it just makes you stronger. It makes you have a deeper connection to your whys. And, you just learn from every adversity, every obstacle, every temporary failure, and you keep going. And then that becomes your story. And your story is beautiful, right? Everyone's story can be beautiful. And any obstacle just makes it that much juicier. You're living your own movie, and you get to be the narrator. You get to say when it ends and how it ends.
And do you think that's a sort of a problem, is that people aren't in love with their story? They don't understand. They're letting other people write it because they don't know what they want from life or the enjoyment from life. Because, you're like highly successful champion, you've won title after title, but then you got the devastating diagnosis, which, you've come through with such resilience and positiveness about it. And, I really hope you recover well from it. But how have you dealt with that possibility that you might not be able to compete in MMA again? How's that changed your story? Or are you just assuming with your mental positivity, I'll make the story what I want it to be in life? What would you say to people who are having a similar kind of experience?
Well, within difficulty lies opportunity. And the quote that I said on the Joe Rogan show, every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. So, at the end of the day, it sounds so simple. Obviously, it's not. But you have to train yourself every day to get to the point where you have unshakable positivity, unbreakable positivity, being resilient, not giving up, staying strong, being able to dig deep, and all those sort of things just comes down to staying positive, never giving up, you always have faith, you always believe. And maybe it feels like something could be taken away from you, or something isn't fair. But if you're able to stay positive and keep an open mind, you never know how that could be redirecting you to something that is even bigger and better, if you stay open to it and try to see what the possibilities are, what the new opportunity is, that is being resilient, and it takes training. I feel like as martial artists, we have a bit of an advantage in that realm, because, a black belt is a white belt who never quit. It's so obvious that if you keep coming, if you keep showing up, one day you will become a black belt. There's no way around it. If you never give up, you're going to achieve it. It's just a matter of time, right? And sometimes things will happen that where you had this plan and you had this time frame laid out, and something's going to happen that's going to change the direction, and maybe things take more time than what you wanted or whatever. But it's just part of making you who you are, and help you have a deeper connection to your whys and your story, your journey, and gives you more to share, more to say. They're like in jiu-jitsu, for example, you could get injured, things happen that could expand the amount of time that it takes you to get to black belt, but you're still going to get there one day. And, I think as far as, the fight camp itself, and everything, that I got hit with and going through there, I had to accept, of course, the possibility that I wasn't going to get approved to fight. And and just be grateful. Of course, it was going to be heartbreaking if I didn't get that opportunity to fight. And it was even heartbreaking afterwards, of course, to get to the top and then have to stop. But I had already found such a deep level of gratitude. And I think that's so important as well. Like, really, to be able to stay positive or be happy, I think is so directly tied to your sense of gratitude. And for me, understanding this condition and how it could be so extreme to where children that have what I have, sometimes they have to have multiple brain surgeries before they're even teenagers, because it is so life-threatening and it is so bad. And here I am already with such a wonderful life of living my passion and fighting 9 fights, and basically getting hit in the head my whole life, and I had no issues. And so I had to just like slap myself in the face a little bit and be like, man, what can I complain about? How can I ever complain about this? Yes, there's the why is this happening to me type of a thing, but at the end of the day, I was still in perfect health, and I still am today. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I don't have symptoms. I don't have seizures. I've never been in a coma. I mean, I don't even get headaches. I don't need a surgery right now. And hopefully it stays that way. And so that was something that I had to okay, I need to be grateful that this isn't worse. Grateful that I've got to do all the fights that I did have. Grateful that I've learned everything that I've learned. Grateful that I've had my family and these beautiful people on this journey with me thus far, and they're going to love me no matter what. And that gratitude allowed me to be content, and accept whatever possibly could happen. But then it also gave me the strength. It also gave me the strength to keep going and not give up and keep seeing doctors and keep believing that the commission was going to approve me, and keep training in the middle of this camp that was just everything was going wrong. But it gave me the strength, because I felt like, okay, at the same time I could accept it, but I also felt like I had to keep going for us, and because we all deserved that opportunity to become world champions. And it got me through it, and everything worked out. And of course, it was really hard and sad to then later on hear that, no commission was going to approve me again, and blah, 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 blah. But we had that one, and once again, how can I complain? Of course I cried, and I was sad, and I couldn't imagine having to retire like that, but at the same time, the journey was beautiful, and we got that fight. And so I just think that gratitude is so tied into being positive, and being able to stay positive is so tied into knowing your why. When you know your why, it gives you strength. And when you're giving everything you have, then you deserve it. And if you know you deserve it, you're going to keep your faith. And if you keep your faith, you stay positive, and then it circles back around, and then you're happy, and then you're grateful again. It's just all tied together. Everything comes from inside. It's all in your mind and your heart.
Because you can certainly see the passion, the love, the intensity you have. And, I watched the Bellator behind the scenes leading up to your fight, and you see the amazing relationship you have with your girlfriend, your family, your friends, your training partners who come and live with you, the coaches, and there's that kind of connection that's there. What has that taught you about friendship, competing, what matters in life? Because you've said there about, that most people would have been devastated that they were champion and they had this diagnosis, but you've explained how you're looking at this as a positive and then as an opportunity to go do something else. which he then went and competed at one of the highest levels in jiu-jitsu and beat the guy. You know, what has the experience taught you about resilience and being what's important in life?
Well, MMA was so beautiful for me because it brought every phase of my martial arts journey together. You know, so my father being my first teacher, and my first martial arts experience was under him, and then there was jiu-jitsu, and mainly my jiu-jitsu journey, the greatest gifts that it gave to me were the Hibeto brothers, Saulo and Shanji Hibeto, and of course my own students, my own black belts. But Saulo and Shanji are my Brazilian brothers. You know, I'm not related to them, but I feel such a bond with them. When you give blood, blood, sweat, and tears, when you share blood, sweat, and tears with somebody, they become family, and we did that for years, for over a decade. And then there's my Muay Thai coach, who is also one of my students. I am his student. He is my student. He's one of my black belts, and I am one of his black belts. And we've been training together for over 10 years. And he comes and lives with me for 2-3 months at a time for every single one of my fight camps. And then there's my wrestling coach, who I've been training with now for 13 years. He is also one of my black belts. He's one of my jiu-jitsu black belts. I'm one of his students. That's the kind of relationships that I have. My strength and conditioning coach, I've been training with over 10 years, is one of my jiu-jitsu students. My mobility and yoga movement mentor is one of my students. We all share. And so jiu-jitsu is just one small piece. When I did MMA, everyone came together to be a part of my camps and be invested into really my success, but it was the success of all of us. And each fight, each camp, all of us getting together, we would just have so much fun, and we would learn so much. We would all evolve and just laugh and, of course, work our asses off at the same time and have a mission that we were focused on together as a family, as a team. And it really helped me discover, whereas jiu-jitsu, it didn't bring all of that together for me. Of course, I love jiu-jitsu, and it was maybe a little more personal to me. And there's a lot of trying to be this figure of a non-Brazilian in the sport that was kind of important to me. But MMA really showed me that, hey, this is more of a family thing. The best part was just the time that we spent together. All of us. That was the best part of every fight, every camp, the whole journey was just, man, we got to spend so much time together, because each person is so busy. They all have their own schools, their own, commitments and travel. Everyone travels, family, blah, 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 blah. But they would literally all open up their schedules, scratch out and clear their schedules for my fights. And, I would joke about it. I say, man, there's no other way we would get all these people together unless it was a funeral, which would be the extreme sad end of things. A funeral, a wedding, or a fight. That's the only way we can get all of these people together, because everyone is so busy and are experts in their fields. But they all came together for me. So what it showed me is it's the journey, and it's who you get to share it with that is the best part. At the end of the day, I'm going to retire at some point anyways, right? We're all going to grow old. We're not all going to be able to be competitive. If you're out there and you're an athlete of some sort, there's going to be life after competition. You can't compete at the highest level forever. And this showed me what really is important a little sooner. Because MMA, like I said, it brought everyone together, and it showed me that, hey, the most important thing, the most valuable thing that martial arts has given to me is not the titles or anything like that. It's just the people. It's the people that I get to share it with, the relationships and the experiences that we've shared together, the memories, the moments, and the lessons. These lessons, the things that I have to say now, that I'm talking about on this podcast. These are the things that I get to share now. These are the most valuable things, because this helps me make an impact across the whole world, and do something much bigger than what we could ever do individually. And so, yeah, that's the most valuable thing. That's what everyone should be looking for. Your personal journey and path of achieving goals and accomplishing your dreams is really just to sort of, I feel like it's sort of to give you so much knowledge that then you can give back. It empowers you so you can empower others. And the people that are with you over all of those years, because you're going to go through so much and you're going to have to make changes and you're going to grow as a person. And the ones that grow with you, those become your family. Those people really become your family. And your bond with them only gets stronger over time. And now I can call on these people at any time I need something, and they're going to be there for me. And that's the greatest gifts.
It's time for a quick break. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore those that will transform and improve your life. You'll find deals, listener exclusives, and special offers with some great companies. Recommendations are 100% honest and only on items Ian has tried or believes in. The companies showcased will make you a better man in all areas of your life. Simply go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and level up.
I love that, because it certainly came across in that, in that documentary of the bond that you guys had. I mean, you've talked there about, passing on that knowledge and training and coaching. Has there been something that you've discovered since you started that coaching side and coaching, like your Muay Thai coach and your yoga coach, or, learning from them about skill development? Have you found training hacks or any particular ways that could rapidly increase or speed up somebody's development in jiu-jitsu? Or is it a case you've just got to love it and turn up every day?
Well, I think I definitely have a different vision. You mature over time with your routine, and you go through things with your body, right? Dealing with injuries, or we basically try everything at least once. Especially with the cross training stuff. The things outside of your specific craft. Like strength and conditioning, which could be numerous things, right? Weightlifting, kettlebells, doing sprints, using machines like row machines, bikes, and blah, 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 blah. And then there's just mobility and movement and yoga and diets and blah, 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 all these things, right? And what I think I've realized is that the real goal here, it isn't so much to prep yourself for one day, one event, one moment, or anything like that, but is to prep yourself for longevity. I think the real goal that any one of us would have, deep down, of course, we want to win stuff, but more than that, hopefully more than that, is to just do what you love for as long as possible and to live the most full life as possible, because you feel healthy and energized and your body can still move and do what you want it to do when it comes to some sort of athletic, field. And so over time, especially after my most serious injury, which was a completely torn pec tendon, my pec tendon, which connects your pec, your chest, to your shoulder, to your arm, it completely snapped. And so basically my arm was like hanging off my body, right? It had no connection. I couldn't use my arm. And that was a really, really tough time, a really hard road back, a really hard recovery, and one in which I wasn't sure if I would ever be able to come back and compete at the same level. And that's when my mind really expanded, because I realized how much damage I was doing. I wasn't recovering. I was pushing myself too hard. I was competing way too much, and competing even when it didn't make sense. It didn't even make sense, but I felt like, I'm there. My students are there. I'm training. I'm in decent shape. Why not? I'll just jump in and do it. And I wasn't always motivated, and I was kind of running myself down, and I overdid it, and I got hurt. And it made complete sense why I got hurt. And then coming back from that, I realized, okay, I'm not going to compete. I'm not going to do anything unless I'm fully inspired, unless I'm 100% motivated and inspired to be there. And then I started making all these changes to my routine, and having a productive day of training, or a productive day of just health, for your body, doesn't necessarily mean that you had to drag yourself out of the gym or off the mats, and that's really what my mindset was before. I felt like I had to go as hard as I possibly could, as many days of the week as I possibly could. And so I wasn't recovering. My routine was unbalanced, and I didn't have the vision of longevity. And then I realized, look, I just want to do this for as long as I possibly can. I want to be in my 50s and still able to train and roll and move and, just do what I love. Even past that, 60s, maybe even 70s, who knows? But your vision changes when you think it could all get taken away from you, and so then I realized longevity was really the focus, and I started doing less. Less can be more, right? And just plugging everything in better and making my routine as good as it possibly could be, adding in a lot more recovery, walks, Epsom salt baths, hot cold therapy, sauna time, pool time with no impact, just really plugging all that stuff in at the right times in my week, so I can recover. And my routine just got better and better and better. And I really discovered and learned a lot of that inside my MMA career, because MMA, you have to do so much. And so the way I pieced it together got better and better for each fight. My recovery my routine became so dialed in, doing yoga. That's what brought me to meeting Cameron Shane and becoming a student of his inside of movement and yoga. I mean, that's really what we do, right? We're movers. And so, it just becoming the best mover I can be, which makes you more open to exploring everything, like there's more ways to move your body than just jiu-jitsu. Do it all and just explore. And I think that helps you have a deeper connection to your body and understand where you need to put your focus. What are your weak areas? How can you strengthen? How can you get more flexible, more mobile? But really, I would just say longevity. The mindset is longevity, not for, 1 year, 5 years, not for a title, not for a competition, a fight. It's just to do what we love for as long as possible.
I love that, because That's something, I love about jiu-jitsu is people that are 70, 80 odd are still doing it because it's and enjoying it and benefiting from it. So what then would you give to people, about competing? Do you think everybody needs to compete in jiu-jitsu? Does it competition open up and you learn about yourself, or is competing maybe just different for people who want to take it a bit further in jiu-jitsu? Should you compete, and what advice would you give to people who are, thinking about competing for the first time?
I'm definitely an advocate of competing. I don't think you need to do it all year, every year, but I definitely think, at least maybe once a year, twice a year, or at least once or twice at every belt level, just for the experience. And once again, I just think it's so important that we all get out of our comfort zone at least a little bit, here and there, and challenge yourself to be at your absolute best. If you really love jiu-jitsu and want to be the best you possibly can be at it, then competition is definitely the best way, because you're naturally going to train more serious and more dedicated if you know that you're going to compete in 2 months, right, or a month. You're going to be more serious. You're going to really try to dial in your game. You're going to drill. You're going to be there every day and prepare yourself to be at your best. You're going to get in better shape. You're probably going to lose weight. You're going to look good, feel good, and you're getting out of your comfort zone. You're challenging yourself. And with that, you're going to learn. You're going to learn about yourself, how you respond to pressures, anxiety, the nerves, and then you're just going to get data. You're just going to get straight up data on how your game matches up with those that are around your same age and weight and skill level. And so then from there, you can go back to training and say, okay, here's what I need to focus on, which if all you do is train inside the room, you're not, it can be hard to get new data, right? Because you're probably training with the same people and your rounds tend to become replicates. It's hard to get outside the box when, there's a million different games out there and you're only training with 5 or 10 different games regularly, so that's my thought on how it just makes you better. But there are people that are in a situation where maybe their challenges come inside the work, inside their work, their professional lives. Maybe that is their extreme stress and pressures comes from their professional fields, like lawyers, doctors, things like that. Or entrepreneurs who are doing launches and products and things like that are really, it's really pushing them. And then they're coming to jiu-jitsu for that meditation, right? To get lost and sort of have a little vacation from their days, which I get. And then that's fine, just as long as you have that in your life. But if you're successful, comfortable, so to speak, and you have your family and you're not really getting challenged in any other element inside your life, then I think it's a good thing. I think it's a very healthy thing, and you should do it. And I'm sure for everybody, it's probably not the main reason, but at some point in time, there was the thought of learning martial arts to be able to defend yourself. And those high pressure situations where that could come into play, it's a huge advantage if you compete and how to deal with your nerves and be calm and breathe. And, you just know what that feels like to have your heart racing 100 miles per hour, and still be of sound mind. That's what happens when you compete. And so for a real life circumstance, if you're a competitor, I think that will help you even more to defend yourself if you really need to. And so that's something to keep in mind, to help people decide if they should compete. But I definitely preach to my guys. It's like, look, we need to be constantly working on ourselves. Like I said earlier, ourselves, our businesses, and our team. And I believe that if we're the best version of ourselves, then, we will be that much better for our students. And so challenge yourself in competition is going to help you become the best version of yourself. You're going to learn from it. You're going to grow from it. And in turn, that's going to help you become a better teacher and pass on more valuable knowledge to your students, especially those who want to compete and also challenge themselves. And then you're leading from the front. You're being an example, and you're showing them that, hey, I'm not afraid, and I practice what I preach. And so you're going to inspire them, and it's just going to make you better. It's going to make them better. At the same time, the better we are, the better we do. So, I tell everyone, look, hey, try to compete once a year, even if you're in the 30 plus category and you have families and professional lives, one weekend a year, you got the Masters, and it's a great, great time. And if you can, get another tournament to warm up so you can be a little more sharp for the Masters, so maybe twice a year. And it just becomes fun. And once again, you get to be around your guys, your friends, your training partners, your teammates, and make some special memories. And maybe make a special moment for yourself where you dug deep and you overcame something inside of a match or a tournament that really helped you evolve as a person, and showed you that maybe you were a little stronger than what you thought. And then you can take that and apply it into your life, into your work, into your family life, be a better husband, be a better father, or whatever the case may be. And, it's a beautiful thing.
I love that kind of idea, because that is something that's rarely talked about. People say, oh no, you need to compete to judge yourself against other people and that, but that kind of motivation is what made me want to compete. But how do we deal with the darker side of jiu-jitsu? Because something I struggled with was when I got my blue belt after just over a year, I started immediately going into roles and worrying about losing to a white belt or getting tapped or comparing myself to somebody else who's maybe getting better quicker than me, or, I'd lost the fun of jiu-jitsu. I'd forgotten why I was doing it. And I remember you said in another interview where your daily walks had kind of reignited your passion for it and your desire for it. How should we deal with things about like making mistakes, not comparing to others? What would you say to people who are losing the joy of jiu-jitsu, or they're not competing because they're worried about it, or they're comparing themselves to other people? How do you deal with those kind of students?
Well, so you're talking about some of the things that you're doing that you even understand and realize you shouldn't be doing, when you're talking about comparing yourself to others and getting frustrated and things like that. Here's the deal. The whole process, the whole journey, right, is just for you to become the best version of yourself possible. The things that you learn in martial arts through jiu-jitsu or whatever you're doing. And this is in any walk of life, if you're living your passion and you're trying to improve, inside that world, how can you apply that in your everyday life? How does it make you more grateful and make you, what are you learning that you're sharing with others and helping to impact those around you? And how are you getting the most out of jiu-jitsu to make you become just a better person, a better, father or husband, with your family and everything else. And so when you realize that, look, It's just, I'm only here to be better than what I was yesterday or the day before. It's such a personal journey. It's only about you. It's an individual thing, and you working to get better. And when you earn your black belt, or everything that you're going through on your way to black belt is just to help you become the best black belt you can be, right? I've seen so many guys, right? I've come up, like I had guys I competed against back in the days. I don't know where they are today. And they used to be monsters, right? I had students who were amazing blue belts, purple belts. I don't know where they are today. The point isn't now. It's not to be the best blue belt, to be the best purple belt, to be the best brown belt. It's to become the best black belt you can possibly be. And when you get your black belt, your whole perspective is going to change, because then you're going to realize, hey, I'm not done. I can still be better. Like you'll get your black belt and you'll feel inadequate. You feel like, oh man, I shouldn't even be wearing this thing because I don't feel like I'm perfect. But that's the point. You're never going to be perfect. You can still get better. You can still learn. You can still become more efficient with your techniques and your movements. And then it'll hit you. It's like, look, that's what this has been about the whole freaking time. You get so caught up in belts and the short term thing that you didn't even realize that, one day you're going to get your black belt and those things would still be there. You would still feel like you could get better, and you're still going to get tapped out sometimes. It's not like, oh, I got my black belt, I'm invincible, I'm not going to get tapped out anymore. You're going to get tapped out, and you may get tapped out by a purple belt. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It's just a reminder. Hey, guess what? You still got more to learn. You're still not perfect. You're still making mistakes. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing to feel that. It's a good thing to understand that there's always room to grow, because that's what life is about. We're going to keep growing, keep maturing. And then you get to share. Then you get to start to teach. And then you realize, man, this was so I could give back, as well. So, that's the vision of it. Don't get caught up on the short term, and love your own journey. You got to love your own journey. Give yourself props. It's like if you still show up, hey, props, you're still there, right? There are plenty of people that quit, inside the first month, 6 months, year, right after they get their blue belt. You know what I mean? So be a fan of yourself. Like, give yourself props. I'm still here. I'm still going. I'm still learning. Nothing's going to stop me. And you'll see, man, some of those people that maybe you like kind of let get the better of you and you were comparing yourself to them, you might notice one day they're not around anymore, or something came up, they got injured and they didn't make it back, and it's a marathon, not a race. It's only about not quitting. That's it. Even when you get your black belt, you got to keep going. The journey only gets more and more beautiful. You only become more and more grateful and like in love with it as it goes on. Like without a doubt, it just gets better and better and better. So, just keep that in mind. Like whatever you've learned today, what belt are you again, Ian?
I'm a blue belt now.
You're a blue belt. How many years have you been training?
I got my blue belt after my first year, so I was about a year and a bit just before the COVID.
Okay, so just a little over a year. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're talking, basically a year. We'll just say a year. What does that blue belt mean to you? Does it mean a lot to you?
Yeah, I went through a lot of to get to it. I did a lot of private lessons and stuff like that. And then when I lost, I made a sort of a bullshit sort of story in my head of what I was getting judged and competing against other people, and I lost the fun from it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's my biggest regret from it, is I started thinking people are judging me and trying to, I've got a target on my back and I've got to show to a certain level of standard where nobody cares. But I still struggle with it at times.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the blue belt symbolized, that was the first thing I had stayed at without just giving up because it got a bit hard or whatever. So it symbolized that I could achieve something if I wanted to, if I really kept, I was able to get to that level if I really pushed myself.
Mm-hmm. See, and that's just after 1 year. You already have that feeling. Look what you've overcome, and the maturity and the growth, and just it's the first thing you stuck with for that long. All these things, that means so much to you. Now imagine what it feels like to get your black belt and look down at your black belt, all the experiences, the lessons, the ups and downs, the relationships that you get from that. I guarantee I could ask every black belt in the world, every Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in the world, and say, hey, if you were to receive $1 million to exchange your black belt and all the experiences, all the lessons, all the memories, the whole journey, if you were to trade that where you would forget it all, it would be like it never happened, but you got $1 million, would you do it? I guarantee they would all say no. 100%. They would all say no, even for more money. For me, it's priceless, right? It's priceless. You're on a priceless journey. And so that's where I'm saying it only gets bigger and better. Maybe right now that you're only a year in, if someone was to offer you $1 million, you would think about it, right? But that's what I'm saying. That's why you have to keep going, because you may not have anything in your life. Of course, if you have family or whatever, but there may not be anything in your life that you could say that is priceless to me, right? That is the value that jiu-jitsu is going to give you, because one day you're going to have a black belt that will literally be the most valuable thing. It'll be priceless. No one could put a price on that. And that's what you're going to receive. That's what it's all for, right? So just try to keep that in mind, and remember, it's only going to get better and better. And all of these hardships, all of these discoveries that you're thinking about and going through, and the frustrations and all that, you're just going to become better because of it, and you're going to understand in a clearer way how it's just life. You're just going through life in this little miniature, version of itself, which is your jiu-jitsu journey. There's your life journey, and then your jiu-jitsu journey, and it's the same. You're going to have ups and downs in regular life. You're going to want to compare yourself to others. You're going to see what people are doing on social media, or you drive by a neighborhood and you want that and you see that, or you compare yourself. Why does he have that? I don't have that. All these things, but that's not you. You have what you have. And like all these things that you learn on the mats will help you in life, and it only gets better. So just keep that in mind.
That kind of really sort of blew me away, because I've always kind of given the deeper meaning of jiu-jitsu a kind of lip service, but when you put it like that, it kind of really hit home of, I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in learning the techniques, or, who tapped who in a role, and does it question our masculinity if we get beaten by a smaller person and all this kind of stuff. We forget, like you're saying, it's the journey of it. It's not just the actual, who's better and who, or the belts and stuff. And I got so wrapped up into people getting their blue belts before me, who I thought I was better than, forgetting it. Was I a better version of myself? What was I getting the benefits from jiu-jitsu? I mean, you talked earlier about, coaching people and telling them that, they had to become the best version of themselves. What else, in addition to training and turning up and competing, etc., do you want your students to be doing? Do you have philosophies on diet? Do you have attitudes towards like visualization training, meditation? what else do you think, the best quality students should be doing in addition to coming to class?
Well, when you train, you're working on your technique, and your physical abilities. But then there's the mental, the mindset, the everything you touched on, sort of the mind and spirit, that I believe needs daily work as well. So we have our mind, body, spirit, and our actual craft that we need to dedicate our lives to. And once again, always trying to be better, always trying to learn, and feed positivity to. We give our bodies good food, we recover, we walk, we sleep, we move, we breathe, all these things. We work on our craft, we learn our technique, we work to improve our technique, blah, 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 blah. And then I think that the mind and the spirit is so closely, when you have this martial arts mindset or martial arts upbringing, you can see how closely they're tied together. But a lot of people don't train with a martial arts mindset, a martial artist mindset. They train for sport, so to speak, like the competitors. They maybe don't dive so deep into some of these other things because of just the intrigue or the of winning, right? And winning at all costs. And so maybe the mind and the spirit can get a little off. Like you see it a lot in MMA, right? Like there's fighters, but then there's martial artists. A lot of times people don't even train when they don't have a fight, but a real martial artist is going to be constantly working to improve and train year round all the time. But, I encourage my students and everybody to take time to work on these other things, meditate, visualize. Those are things that you can do inside of your walks, or your recovery, your yoga, your breathing practice, and really just have a deep connection to what you're doing everything for, right? I think that comes with meditation. Understanding better who you are and your purpose, your motivations, how to become the best version of yourself. I think these things are a part of that. So, of course, feeding yourself well for physical, and then feeding your mind well, so if it's reading books or, just putting good material, like inspirational stuff that you can find on YouTube or documentaries, anything like that motivates you. I think it's important to kind of put that in there as much as you can. Maybe it's actually writing yourself. I've kind of discovered some things recently inside this quarantine. It's pushed me to get a couple projects off the ground. One of which is a book, and so going off of what I've been saying, taking all these lessons of my journey and sharing them and giving back and trying to teach and make an impact and all that. My sort of meditation and reflection and all of that has been tied to writing recently, and working on my book. And part of that has been trying, anytime someone asks me for a podcast like you have, I try to make it happen. Whereas the old me, the pre-quarantine me, wouldn't always say yes. I'm too busy. I'm sorry. But now I'm trying to say yes so I can put this out there and I get better at it and I say it better and I understand more because this is what I'm writing about, and so this is a form of meditation for me. And now I have everything I've talked about today on this podcast, I'm going to take it right into my classes tonight, and I'm going to share it. And I just have that vibe now. You know, I'm in a good vibe. And that's what I'm doing, you know. So everyone's different. You know, just find what you love to do and what works for you. And maybe sharing things with your family. You know, the way that you spend time with your children or whatever. Could be a form of meditation. Could be a form of you know, breathing, and a form of discovery as well, right? Seeing a little mini you. But you know, that's what I think. I just mind, body, spirit, and of course our craft. It all deserves attention every day, and how you can get everyone else involved. And you know, some of that or all of it is going to make it even better.
See, it's like, this is why I love this podcast, because I get to speak to guys like you who not only give amazing answers like that, it's like you've completely changed my approach to jiu-jitsu. You've kind of opened my eyes to the benefits of it again and made me realize, you know, why I fell in love with it. And I know that there's going to be so many people who are going to be going through this as well, who are going through COVID-19, who are missing jiu-jitsu for what it gave them, not so much just learning to choke people out, but it's the brotherhood, it's the, you know, it's the chance to become physical again, or to have a laugh, to kind of to discover the joy of competing with friends, and, you know, all of that kind of thing. And I think that's why we're all missing it. What do you want the evolution of your academy to be now? You know, like, what do you want your legacy to be? And is there something that you're the most proud of out of everything you've done? Because you've done some amazing things, but what are you most proud of? What would you love to have written on your tombstone, you know, when you've passed?
Man, I don't know. I think,
because you've had an amazing story.
I think it comes down to just trying to inspire people. You know, that's my favorite thing about teaching. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm really embodying now, is my position as an influencer and being able to put positive energy out there. I really discovered that recently. I feel like, because you know, the quarantine kind of locked me up. Obviously, it gives you time to reflect. And as I said earlier, you know, inside difficulty lies opportunity. And once I got kind of over that original sort of like feeling of just sadness or getting hit with that difficulty, I was able to find the opportunity. And that's when I, you know, got things rolling on this book. And that helped me realize that, you know, I need to be trying to put that energy out there every day through my social media. And I went down a different path of posting. You know, it's not just, hey, here I am, this is what I'm doing, this is what I got coming up, which it's not that it always was, but maybe my real inspirational stuff wasn't happening every day, or maybe not even every week, right? I was, I'm a little too busy to sit down and write something big or anything like that. But, you know, everything that I've been through recently with MMA, and you know, that transition or whatever, that process, and then opening up my new school, and then quarantine hit, it was like, okay, everything's on pause. And so it's like, who am I now? And what can I do? And you know, when I think about the book and I say, okay, what is my number one why or purpose for wanting to create a book? It's just to try to make as big of a positive impact on the world as possible, to try to inspire and just give what I can give. You know, I believe that these things that I'm talking about can be applied in anything, right? It's just life, more or less, you know. You don't have to be a fighter. You don't have to be an athlete. You could be anything. You could be a musician. You could be an entrepreneur. You could be, you know, someone that works on Wall Street, whatever. Everything, there's still a fight in life, no matter what you're doing. There's the journey, and there's who you are today and who you have to grow to become in order to be able to accomplish those goals. And inside of that is the process. And I think with that process, my process, the lessons that I've learned, I can share, and hopefully others can apply it, and it'll help them get to where they need to be as well. So that would be it, man. I'm doing it inside my craft, with the people in my community, and trying to make as big of a difference as I can here, as well as around the world. When I teach seminars, I have my affiliate schools. I think the book will take everything to the next level. And, if anything, I just hope that people feel inspired and feel a bit of positivity. Maybe they get a little, extra motivation, or they're just able to live life a little better in some shape or form, because they were around me. That's all I could ever hope for.
And I think you're definitely doing a great job of that. But why did you go with the idea of writing a book? Did you contemplate starting your own podcast, or do you find that when you write things out, it kind of allows you to understand it on a deeper level? Are training journals and things like that helpful in your opinion? Mm-hmm. Does writing allow you to kind of express yourself better?
For me, it does. I like to write, sort of. How do I put it? I like to reflect, and then take notes. I guess I would say. I have stacks of notebooks from my years coming up. Trying to learn and study jiu-jitsu, and write down my goals and my focuses. And I never wanted to forget anything either. I hate feeling like I forgot something that could help me, and so I would write down everything, every possible technique, every game, everything that I ran into that I didn't know, I would write it down. And I just really, I feel that. I feel like you give more power to something when you write it down, especially in jiu-jitsu. It helps you remember. It's like a mental rep, and you can do enough mental reps that it actually transforms into a physical rep. I believe that. It's just the same thing as like visualization. If you visualize something so much and you see it happening, it's going to happen. It will happen at some point in time. It will happen. I really believe that. Of course, it takes all the work behind it. But yeah, I just, for me, it's been a powerful thing in my life and my career. And so, like I said, I reflect, I think about the journey, I think about the moments, the lessons, and I just basically take notes on it. And I've been writing, and I've been turning that into social media stuff. I've been making videos, trying to talk about things like that on social media, and just put that energy out there for everybody. But that's been my therapy. That's been that was what I was doing to stay strong, stay motivated, and stay productive in this difficult time. And it actually made me work more than what I would normally. And I've just been so positive, because I felt like I was doing what I should do. It was like destiny. It was like, okay, if this didn't happen, I would still be doing my traveling. I would have been competing a bunch in jiu-jitsu, and I probably wouldn't have started the book yet, but now it's like, okay, what's my opportunity? It's to get this book going. And then inside of that, I found a new me. And now I love to teach even more. I'm more open with talking and sharing things. And if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be on this podcast right now. So everything is for a reason, and that was my quarantine purpose, so to speak, was like, okay, I've thought about it. I've talked about it long enough. Let's start it. It's book time.
I love that, the fact that, it's like going back to what you said, was inside every adversity, there's an opportunity to grow and develop and learn about yourself. And is that what you want everybody going back to jiu-jitsu, you know how, because we're reopening a lot of places now, do you want people who are going back to the mats to realise that it's a chance to grow and develop? And because this time it's almost like the world has stopped to give everybody a chance to learn about themselves. You know, we've learned so much about what's possible for our jobs and what's important in life and who we should be looking to as, you know, sort of heroes in our societies and things like that. But what would you want people who are going back to jiu-jitsu or going back to MMA, etc., to start remembering and thinking about life and how would they act from now on after this COVID?
Well, definitely, I mean, come back with a huge sense of gratitude, you know, as we all know. I mean, it could be taken away. Anything could be taken away. And the fortunate thing with this is that no one got hurt. I mean, as far as injured, right? Usually people will get the realization of like, oh, I need to be grateful. I can't take it for granted when they have an injury, right? You get a knee injury or something like that, a bad injury, and you're out for 6 months or 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is. You're like, oh, and then you have an extra gratification, you know, or a sense of gratitude for your health. And when you come back, you're just like, oh man, oh, I miss this. I love this. This is so important to me. And you just appreciate it more. And so everyone should be thankful that, you know, they didn't lose it because they were injured. And they're coming back, and, you know, it's not because they were hurt, but they should still have that feeling of, all right, it can be taken away. Life can happen. The world can change. You know, I want to really show love and appreciation to the art and to my training partners, my teammates, my teachers, and everyone that is helping me become the best version of myself through jiu-jitsu or martial arts. You know, just don't take him for granted. And if anyone was hurt, hey, what better time to get hurt because everything was closed anyways. So, you know, yeah. Yeah. And try to keep that purity, right? Don't come back. And then it's just like, okay, wins and losses, right? It's not, don't train. There's really hardly any events out there, right? Unless you're on a higher level of being able to compete professionally. Maybe you get some super fights or something like that, you know, in jiu-jitsu. Okay. You know, so for the most part, no one's really getting ready to compete. Okay. And so if they're training, when they come back to train, they're training just to learn, just to get better. And then at the same time, if you get to roll, I got to go crazy to get some submissions and make up for lost time and feel like I'm the best again, or I'm better than everyone in the room, and just go crazy and train super hard and blah, 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 blah. And every round is a match. You know, it's not a match, right? It's just learning. You know, so to take that sense of gratitude and bring it into your training, it's like, okay, of course, I'm going to try to submit this person when you're rolling with them or whatever, but that's not what it's about. You know, it's just learning and growing and you know, sharing something with your friends and these people that are a part of your life that you haven't seen for a couple months or more now, you know, and you miss them. Right. And so I'd like to see everyone smiling, everyone, you know, just feeling grateful, and training for the purity of just learning and getting better, not trying to tap out everybody. Of course, you know what I mean? If that makes sense. Of course, you want to achieve your movements, but a lot of times that's all that matters. You know, when you're in your car and you're driving home from training, that's all you think about is, oh, I tapped this person or they tapped me or blah, 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 blah. Not just, man, I'm so happy I trained tonight. You know, that's not always on your mind. And now I hope everyone feels that way. Yeah, they just make the most of it, be grateful, and enjoy. Focus on learning, focus on getting better. Don't focus on taps or tournaments. None of that matters.
That's beautifully put. I mean, it's definitely something I think you've kind of reaffirmed people's purpose of going to jiu-jitsu. You know, we're not just going to win, we're going there to learn and develop ourselves and just become better people from it. Jiu-jitsu is a tool to help you discover yourself, and, you know, you're competing against the previous version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know I'm being blown away by your sort of social media, by your answers. I mean, I would love to go into like do another podcast soon and talk about like competing and how you do stuff before the fights and training routines and all this kind of stuff. But your stuff is now on a deeper level that's really helpful, and it kind of blew me away when I started reading into it. I mean, I loved your instructionals, but your latest stuff on social media, your videos, your inspirational stuff, it's phenomenal. So just keep doing what you're doing, because it's helping me, it's helping so many people I know, and also you're smashing your goals. But what do you want people listening to this to take away from it? Like, what would you want the go-home message for them to be?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Hopefully they can take away as much as what I said as possible. Yeah, I mean,
it's difficult to sum up.
Yeah, there's a lot. Your routine and how you work on, your mind, body, spirit. Dedicate yourself to your craft every day. Stay positive. Be grateful. Just never quit. I mean, that was the last thing I would. If I would have to say one thing, it would be that. Like, stay strong, guys. Don't give up. Don't give up. I don't know. That's it, man. If you don't quit and you keep going forward with everything that you have, no matter where you're at, you're going to get better. And that's all that matters. If you get better, you're getting closer to the next step, the next goal. And then there's going to be another one. And then there's going to be another one and another one. So, sometimes we think, oh, if we get here, we'll be happy, or that'll be it, but that's not the case. We're going to just keep trying to get better forever. So it's not about getting to there or here or whatever. It's just keep going. We just got to keep going, keep pushing, and just keep learning along the way and trying to make a difference. But yeah, that's it. Everyone out there, I know a lot of people are struggling still, or struggling even more. I'm super grateful and pretty blessed to be here in Oklahoma, where it hasn't been that bad. But if you are there, just do your best to stay positive, dig deep. If you haven't found something new or some opportunity inside of this, try to reflect on that now, what it could be, what have you been putting off, and get it started, just get it going. What can you do with this time? Because later on you're going to be looking back on it and wish you did have this time again, and so what can you do with it to make the most of it? And how, if you've already have been doing new things, how can you keep that going whenever things do start to come back? Plug new things into your routine, whether it's something with your family or something for yourself that you've made time to do now because you have it. How can you keep that up when things do come back? So, all of this, like I said, just makes us stronger. Stay positive, make the most of it, and whatever it is you're doing, don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. Stay strong. Keep pushing. That's it. The last round is the best round.
I love that. One of my favorite questions I always ask is there an unusual fact about yourself that very few people know that you could share? Is there something like an unusual hobby or a guilty song that you love to listen to that people are always blown away when they hear? Do you have a passion for, I don't know, yodeling or something like that?
Man, I'm pretty straightforward. I don't know. I mean, I think we all love to have shows, right? We all love to have our own show that we like to watch. I basically always have a show in my life. That's my way to wind down at night, with my fiance, or if I'm traveling by myself. Even when I'm at fight camp, I have to have a show. It's like my reward. And so here's what I do every night. All right. This is a Lovato secret. I get up and I try to grind for 12, 14 hours or more, just go. And, I work and I work and I work, but I always have a reward, for myself. And that's what I look forward to every night. And I think that's important. It's like to have a reward. It could be whatever. So for me, my reward on a daily basis is at night. Usually it's not till around 11 o'clock, 11:30. I have a show and I watch an hour, sometimes 2 hours of that show. And that's how I get lost. My phone's off. I watch the show. I enjoy the show, whatever the show may be. I've seen so many shows. Like I said, I always have a show. And then I treat myself. And so when I'm eating healthy, I'll either make a smoothie, so like a healthy smoothie, but I put, fruit and honey and cacao nibs and all these tasty things inside of it. So it's like delicious. Or I make a Greek yogurt bowl. And so I have a Greek yogurt bowl with, granolas and nuts and berries, honey, coconut chips. I'll have like 6 or 7 different ingredients. It's like it'll be like a $30 bowl of granola, because of everything that I put in it. And that's my reward. And I literally look forward to that every day, watching a show and having a reward, which is some sort of food. And when I'm cheating and I'm eating bad after a fight or something like that, or if I have whatever, I have time, then it'll be something worse, like ice cream. But, I love that. That's what I do. A smoothie or a Greek yogurt bowl, basically every single day. And every single day, there are a couple days every now and then where I just get too tired. I'm just like, all right, I'm passing out. But for the most part, I always watch at least one episode with my fiance of whatever show we're into at that time.
And is there any that you're willing to admit to just now? Have you seen Peaky Blinders, Narcos?
All of it. Ozarks, Money Heist. I've done it all. Right now, we're in Shameless. I never watched Shameless, but I always heard great things about it. And we're like right in the middle of the 4th season, and there's 9 total. So that was something we started like in the middle of quarantine, and we're still working our way through. But yeah, Peaky Blinders, amazing. One of the best shows ever. There's so many good ones. I highly recommend Money Heist and Ozarks. Both of those had new seasons come out during quarantine. I also watched The Last Dance. I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan. The Last Dance was amazing. Another documentary that came out during quarantine. But yeah, I love to have a show. I always must have a show.
And have you got to a point where one of you watches episodes ahead of the other person or watches it without the other person? A lot of couples just now are falling out on the fact like their partner cheats on them by watching a show or a couple more episodes. And I always find that really funny, but I see it everywhere.
Yeah.
Like friends are moaning at each other on Facebook and all this kind of stuff. But I mean,
yeah, that's a real thing. That is a real thing for sure. Fortunately, so my girlfriend, she's Colombian, or my fiance, she's Colombian, and she loves to have her own little Spanish show. And so if one of us aren't around each other, we also kind of have our own individual shows that we'll do. Now she'll watch her Colombian or her Spanish show, and I'll usually just end up watching fights or jiu-jitsu matches or whatever in case we're not around each other. But no, it's pretty real. Neither one of us are allowed to watch our together show without the other person there. However, there has been times where I was out of town for fight camps and things like that, and I would tell her, "Hey, look, I'm watching the episode tonight," and she would watch it too without me, and then we would talk about it. So you got to be on the same schedule for sure, though. That's 100%. Or have your own little individual show on the side. But yeah, that's a real thing, because when you're committed, you don't want the other person to know before you, and it's like, hey, I thought we were together on yeah.
I mean, have you seen like The Punisher, for example?
Yes.
What's your take on when you see jiu-jitsu in, TV shows like that? I mean, I know there's a lot of guns and things like John Wick and that. Do you find that you can enjoy the action scenes as much as possible, or do you find yourself kind of looking, going, "Oh no, that's not how I do an armbar," or that's not realistic? Or what's your kind of take on the way jiu-jitsu has now become more mainstream and cool in a way? Like all these celebrities are doing it now.
Oh, I like it. I love it. I love to see that it's gone that far, and that so many, celebrities and actors are fans of jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts, and they're trying to bring more legitimate, fight scenes and moves to the big screen. I love it. In fact, I would love to be a part of it. That's what I think. I think about how much I would love to teach some of these people and share my passion with them, and maybe create a fight scene or be a bad guy in there sometime. That would be pretty awesome. So we'll see what happens down the road, but I love it. I love to see it.
Well, I've used up so much time. I've had the most fun I've had in ages doing a podcast. I cannot thank you enough for coming on, because it's been an absolute joy. We definitely got to do a round 2 at some point. But for those listening, how can they find out more about you, keep in touch, come and train with you, find out more about the book and that sort of thing?
Well, everyone can follow me on social media pretty easily. My Instagram is Lovato Jr. BJJ, so it's Lovato Jr. BJJ. And you can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/Lovato Jr. BJJ. Just the same. Twitter, Lovato Jr. BJJ. And my school is in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. If anyone is ever coming through the middle of the country, they are more than welcome to visit me here and join a class. They can find our information at okbjj.com. And that's about it. I mean, anything otherwise, as far as the book and, seminars, events, and competitions that I do, I always post about on my social media. So it'll be there. If they follow me there, they'll see it all. So I just appreciate the support. If there are any jiu-jitsu people out there listening, I made a Facebook group a few months ago when everything started going down. It actually just started it right before quarantine hit, and then when quarantine did hit, I was like, okay, this is perfect. I'm going to focus on helping people through this group that are stuck at home. And I did live classes there. I shared videos and talked to people. So it's kind of like following me, but it's one step above, where there's a little more interaction and things that I do. And so anybody in jiu-jitsu, martial arts, that would like to be in my Facebook group, they can find it by going to lovatojrfans.com. So LOVATO JR fans.com, and that'll redirect them to my Facebook group.
Well, that's it for another week, and thank you for listening. It's now time to take what you've learned and use it to develop and enhance your life with the key points mentioned. Listen, try it, embrace it, use it, and crush it. Now's your time to hit that next level in your life. If you liked this episode, then please leave a comment on the show notes or a review of the show on your podcast platform. Everything helps evolve the show. Until next week, keep seeking the next level in your life.